Junta launches major counteroffensive in KACHIN state against KIA and KNA forces April the 27th, 2025. By Zalangam media editor, in a dramatic turn of events that could reshape the battlefield in northern Myanmar, Junta forces have launched a massive two-pronged counteroffensive aimed at recapturing key territories seized by the Kachin Independence Army, KIA, and the Kuki National Army Burma, KNA. This large-scale military operation, unfolding in Kachin state since April 24th, represents the junta's most aggressive attempt in months to stem the tide of ethnic resistance that has been eroding their control across the country. According to independent frontline reports gathered by Democratic Voice of Burma, DVB, the Irrawaddy and BNI Online, Myanmar's military regime, supported by local allied militias, is pushing hard to retake strategic areas around Bamo and Mansi, regions that have become strongholds for the joint KIA and KNA forces. The stakes are high, the fighting is brutal, and the outcome may heavily influence the broader trajectory of Myanmar's civil war. Ethnic armed groups tighten grip before counterattack. Since the February 2021 military coup that plunged Myanmar into chaos, the Kachin Independence Army, KIA, has been at the forefront of organized resistance against the junta's rule. Known for their disciplined troops and deep knowledge of the rugged Kachin terrain, the KIA has inflicted repeated blows on junta forces. But over the past year, a powerful new dimension has been added to the struggle: the close collaboration between the KIA and the Kuki National Army Burma, KNA. The KNA, representing the ethnic Kuki people, has increasingly taken on an active combat role in northern Myanmar, bringing additional manpower, strategic depth, and guerrilla warfare expertise to the battlefield. Reports from DVB and BNI Online describe how, through coordinated assaults, the KIA and KNA succeeded in capturing numerous outposts earlier this year. They severed key supply routes, surrounded isolated junta bases, and effectively paralyzed military operations across much of southern Kachin state. The success of this ethnic alliance created a formidable, liberated zone stretching across Mansi and Bamo townships, forcing the junta into a defensive posture and exposing the regime's vulnerabilities. The two-front offensive, a high-stakes gamble. Faced with growing losses and the looming threat of total collapse in parts of Kachin, the military regime gambled on an all-out counteroffensive. According to the Irrawaddy, the junta amassed troops, heavy artillery, armored vehicles, and air support in Bamo and Mansi in preparation for the assault. The plan, a simultaneous two-front push to break through KIA and KNA defensive lines, recapture lost territories, and re-establish a supply corridor to key military bases. On April 24th, the offensive began with ferocious intensity. Airstrikes battered frontline villages, while helicopter gunships circled overhead, providing close air support to advancing infantry units. Drones were used to scout and strike resistance positions, an increasingly common tactic in the junta's arsenal. Ground forces moved aggressively, backed by militia groups loyal to the regime. Artillery fire rained down indiscriminately on KIA and KNA positions as well as on civilian areas, a brutal signature of the junta's tactics. Despite this massive assault, resistance fighters from the KIA and KNA mounted fierce counterattacks. Using their superior knowledge of the mountainous and forested terrain, they launched ambushes, staged hit-and-run attacks, and inflicted heavy casualties on the advancing junta columns. Reports from frontline commanders relayed through BNI Online suggest that over 200 junta soldiers were killed within the first 3 days of fighting, alongside dozens wounded. While the junta succeeded in reclaiming a handful of small outposts near Bamo and Mansi, their advances have been costly and limited. Humanitarian catastrophe unfolds. As the battle lines shifted, civilians found themselves trapped in the crossfire. Thousands of residents from villages across Mansi, Momok, and Bamo fled their homes, seeking shelter in forests, hills, and temporary camps, according to DVB. Entire communities have been emptied almost overnight, as families scrambled to escape relentless air raids and artillery bombardments. Reports indicate that at least 20 civilians have been killed in airstrikes since the counteroffensive began, with many more wounded. Among the dead are women, children, and the elderly, innocent victims of the junta's scorched earth tactics. Humanitarian organizations warn of a looming disaster. Food supplies are running dangerously low. Access to clean water and medical care is almost non-existent. With the monsoon season approaching, the risk of disease outbreaks in the refugee camps is rising rapidly.
Meanwhile, junta forces have reportedly blocked several main roads, effectively cutting off aid routes and preventing relief agencies from reaching the most affected areas. The humanitarian catastrophe is deepening by the day, casting a long shadow over the battlefield victories claimed by the junta. Regional reactions. Tension at the borders. The escalation in KACHIN has not gone unnoticed beyond Myanmar's borders. China, which shares a long border with KACHIN state and has significant economic interests in the region, has reportedly expressed serious concern over the fighting, according to diplomatic sources quoted by KNA online. Cross-border violence and the potential influx of refugees could destabilize China's Yunnan province. However, Beijing has so far refrained from direct intervention, preferring to maintain communication with both the junta and selected ethnic armed groups, including the KIA. At the international level, the United Nations and major human rights organizations have condemned the junta's actions. Calls for an immediate ceasefire have intensified, with repeated warnings about the possibility of war crimes. Yet, with global attention divided by other crises, concrete international action remains elusive, leaving Myanmar's civilians at the mercy of the conflict's escalating violence. Battle-hardened resistance, KIA and KNA vow to fight on. Despite the junta's partial successes, leaders of the Kachin Independence Army, KIA, and the Kuki National Army Burma, KNA, remain undeterred. In statements provided to DVB, KIA field commanders emphasized that while tactical retreats had been necessary to preserve their forces, their strategic position remained strong. The junta can win a battle, but not the war, one KIA commander said. We will strike back even harder. Kachin state will never surrender. Similarly, KNA spokespersons told BNI online that their forces had regrouped and were preparing for intensified guerrilla operations. Utilizing the mountainous terrain to their advantage, they promised to harass, isolate, and bleed junta forces dry in a drawn-out war of attrition. The alliance between the KYA, KNA, and local PDFs continues to deepen. Across Kachin, Sagaing, and other ethnic regions, armed resistance remains fierce, organized, and determined. Even as the junta pours more troops and firepower into Kachin, the spirit of resistance burns brightly, fueled by years of oppression, broken promises, and a shared dream of freedom. The road ahead, an uncertain future. As of April 27, 2025, heavy fighting continues across multiple fronts in Kachin state. Both sides are reinforcing their positions in anticipation of further clashes. The rainy season, which traditionally complicates military operations with swollen rivers and muddy roads, may soon alter the dynamics on the ground. For the junta, maintaining supply lines through flooded terrain will be a major challenge. For the KIA and KNA, it could offer new opportunities to launch surprise attacks and cut off isolated enemy units. Yet even as the tactical situation shifts day by day, the broader truth remains clear. Myanmar's civil war is deepening, not ending. The struggle for Kachin is not just a battle for land, it is a battle for the very soul of the nation. In the hills and jungles of northern Myanmar, the resistance endures, refusing to bow to tyranny, willing to sacrifice everything for the hope of a free and just future. Sources: Democratic Voice of Burma, DVB, the Irrawaddy, BNI Online. Thank you for watching. Please do share our videos and updates. To support independent news and our work at Zalangam Media, kindly subscribe to our channel. Together, let's amplify the voices of the people.